Welcome back. What a disaster. Well, for Australia at least. We had one hand on the Ashes urn until England batsman Ben Stokes pulled off what is being described as one of the most remarkable innings in cricket history. His unbeaten 135 levelled the series, setting up what is going to be a fourth Test thriller in Manchester. And we're joined now by Northern Territory Senator Malarndirri McCarthy and Nine's Tom Wren in Adelaide. Good morning to you both. Tom, I know you're existing here on only about an hour's sleep after watching this last night. Put it into context for us. How unlikely was it that this would be the result?
Deb, greatest ever run chase from an English side in a Test match, let alone an Ashes Test match. To do what they did, they had no right to win that Test match. It's one of the great innings of all time from that man, Ben Stokes. He was phenomenal, but the Aussies, unfortunately, you'd have to say, probably choked, Deb. They had their chances. They burnt a review a couple of overs before. It was clearly not out. And then they missed a run-out opportunity when they would have won by one run. And then the next ball, it was plumb in front. The umpire gave it not out. And so they couldn't review the decision. So it was a catastrophe of the highest order for the Australians. And for England, unbelievable. Complete respect. They deserve the win. Incredible stuff. And now, as you say, it all goes to Manchester. But it's hard to see how emotionally, mentally, the Australians are now going to recover, because that took a lot out of them.
Absolutely. Well, credit where it's due, even though it is through gritted teeth. But Malarndirri, in terms of the heartbreak for Australia, so much pressure now as they do head into Manchester, into the next at Old Trafford.
Oh, absolutely, Deb. And unlike Tom, I did go to bed early, but I woke up this morning and couldn't help but see the highlights. And what an incredible game. And seriously, cricket lovers, whether they're going for England or Australia or no one, it was just phenomenal watching Ben last night. And I think, too, that in terms of Australia, we're a resilient mob. You know, we're going to do well. We're going to certainly, I know what Tom says, that it's going to be heartbreak, but listen, this was phenomenal. It was historic, and I think that Australia will go back and have a good look and certainly come out fighting.
Let's hope they do, that is for sure. Now, One Nation leader Pauline Hanson is back in the headlines. Tonight, she'll be seen trying and failing to climb Uluru. She's appearing on A Current Affair, calling for Indigenous leaders to overturn a decision to ban tourists from climbing the rock. Malarndirri, what do you make of Pauline Hanson's stunt here?
Well, certainly it was interesting to note that Senator Hanson said she was invited to climb the rock, but in actual fact anyone can climb the rock. There was no issue around climbing the rock at the moment. It's actually what happens after October 26th, and that's really the important date when the climb closes. So I do commend Senator Hanson for actually going to Uluru. I had made that call on your program with you, Deb.
You did.
Invited
her to come along.
Asking Senator Hanson. Absolutely, and said, please, you know, go to Uluru, listen to the Anangu, be briefed by the people at Voyagers and by the Parks Board, because this is something that they've been planning for years.
But you say, though, Malarndirri,
I'll be interested to see the program.
You say, though, that anyone can climb the rock, but you do advise people not to, though.
Well, the Anangu certainly have a sign at the bottom of the rock asking people to respect their wishes, Deb. And that's what we've said all along, that the wishes of the Anangu has been culturally in particular, but also for safety reasons, that please don't climb the rock. And look, certainly they still ask that. And most people have respected that. And obviously now the decision to close the climb is coming nearer, and no one will be able to climb the rock.
And Tom, it's interesting that fear rather than cultural concerns is what stopped Pauline Hanson on A Current Affair tonight from climbing the rock. But what do you make of her argument that closing Uluru to climbers will end up hurting the local economy and have a damaging impact on Indigenous communities?
Well, I think there's no question that a lot of people see Australian, eyesores or, landmarks as very Australian, like Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, Uluru. But I think unless you are an Indigenous Australian and understand the significance of that heritage, you should absolutely respect their wishes. So I'm with the Senator on this one. I think, that we have to take the appropriate steps. And if it's being outlawed from October the 26th, then I think we should absolutely abide by that, because that significance needs to be respected, and as Australians we should all do that.
It's going to be worth watching a Current Affair tonight anyway to see it all unfold. Now, I've got to ask you about this one. The Daily Telegraph have got a very interesting headline, a funny one I'd say, calling it the Lamb Shank Redemption. A special report claiming the food in our public hospitals is so bad that it's worse than the slops served up to prisoners in jail. There is a serious issue, though, underlying this, Melandiri, that patients in every hospital, you've got to be eating good food to get better.
Oh, absolutely, Deb. I mean, you're in there for medical reasons. You want to get better. You want to know that you have nutritious food and healthy food. But also for some people, there's a need for culturally appropriate food, you know, with their religion and all sorts of things. And I know many hospitals around the country are trying to look at that. But we want to make sure that our prisoners also have good food. So comparing it and knowing that they are, well, that's a good thing. But certainly people in our hospitals right across the country definitely need really healthy food to help them get better.
And the sad thing is, I think if you compared it to some of the food being served up in nursing homes, you probably find that it is even further down the scale. But Tom, in terms of the anecdotal evidence, there's plenty of it, that the food that is served up in hospitals is just not up to scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in hospital recently, Deb, and I tried to avoid it and got people to try and bring me in some food while I was there. And, you know, my condition wasn't serious. For those that have to stay for an extended period of time, I feel sorry for them. It needs an upgrade. And I think if there was a choice, clearly you'd want people that are sick to get better before the prisoners get their food upgraded. But the Senator makes a good point. You want that food to be up to scratch as well. But nursing homes in particular, those that can't fight for themselves, so to speak, or can't speak up about it, need to be protected more so.
And it's one thing, of course, to say, well, we tick all the boxes in terms of nutrition and all the dietary requirements, but Melandiri, you've got to make it appetising too, don't you?
Oh, totally. I mean, like Tom, I was in hospital, recently as well. And of course, you look for the food that just helps you get that little bit of extra strength. But some of those photos I've seen in the papers with some of the gross pictures and images of food, well, it does turn you off. And I just think, well, come on, guys, if you want your patients to get better, give them good food.
Yeah, good tucker, that's what it needs. Good on you, Melandiri. And Tom, thank you so much. We'll let you go back to bed then, Tom. Maybe you've got to go to work though, do you? Goodness me.
Yeah, I do, unfortunately. Got to be very unproductive, Deb. Not like any other day, really.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. More coffee for you. Thank you so much. Now, coming up this morning, George Pell's final fight for freedom. Could he win a High Court appeal? Plus, the